Today we'll be going over the third podcast, or rather news update, for the method race. In first place currently we have Monkey Squad. Again we have Ventura, Rathalos, Heshla, Thief. At the lineup here, it does appear like Ventura's ripped once again, twice since we last spoke. We have Rathalos in first place in the race, currently residing at level 94. He's playing Isla's Righteous Fire build. We have Heshla at 91, recovering from his rip. Again, running the same Stormbrand setup with Leaf at 91 as well. We have map progression set at about tier 10. Doing a slash who is the only source of data that we have for this team. As for Monkey Squad, none of them are streaming, and so just doing a quick search in-game shows us that they currently reside in around Moon Temple, is a big one that they're currently in, as well as other numerous tier 11s and above. They have all of their Uber Lab completed. They reside within depth 20 at the moment. So far, the strategy is they all split up, and they're feeding all of the resources to Rathalos, as he is the fastest mapper, and I believe he has not slept yet. So not sleeping is a common occurrence between two of the teams. Speaking of such team, Dodamite is another team that has not slept yet with an uptime of about, I believe it's 27 hours now. We have Rise QT, Waggle, Garotha, and Carve. Rise QT still remains the big carry of the group, level 94 as well, catching up, if not ahead by now, with the 6-link Winter Orb setup in the Queen of the Forest. We have Waggle as the boss killer running Stormbrand. We have Garotha and Carve hovering about that 90 to 91 range, both farming up currency. I do believe Garotha is the first support for the boss killer, but they seem to be splitting up most of the time. Garotha has luckily recovered from his rips and is well on his way to farming up and very useful for the. You can see that they reside within tier 11 to 12 maps, constantly sustaining their red tier map, occasionally dipping down into tier 10s, but for the most part they are sustaining around those higher tiers. We have them completed all of their Uber labs, and they reside within depth 158. The strategy so far is not letting Rise sleep, as letting them sleep would be a detriment to the rank 2. It will be interesting to see the latter in the next one, as Team America, or rather the Avengers, as well as Method, have gone to bed a few hours previously, I believe 3 to 4 hours ago. And so it'll be interesting to see if a Team Dodamite here can hold the lead. Their strategy revolves around 2+1+1, which means that typically 2 of them will be in the same map, and then the other 2 will be farming up currency on the side. Looking at team number 3 here, or I wish I could say team number 3, we have Grizzly. Unfortunately, Afromatic and Odang have unfortunately ripped. I believe they gave up, and so they ran it down a little bit. We can just talk about what they were doing before they died. I believe this slide's a tiny bit out of date, but that's okay. They were within red tiers as well with all their Uber Lab, and again, very low delve, which is interesting to see from some of these teams. So they did end up farming at Ziri quite a bit. Rox finally got his computer up and working. Birdwings was farming up there with his 6-link Winter Orb, and I believe they reached 93 or 94. Definitely were a surprise team this time, especially since they passed up the Avengers and Team Method. I think nobody really expected them to perform this well, and just see them play super well over the first weekend. It was really a sight to see from this surprise. Definitely the underdogs. And the opposite of underdogs, we have Team Avengers here with Gucci, Ty 23, Crying, and Kamel in 4th place currently. They did go to sleep about 3 to 4 hours ago, and so maybe they'll be doing the sleep for 5 hours strategy strat. We have Gucci as the boss killer still. Ty 23 is constantly mapping with Crying. I believe he's an Aura slash Curse bot, but primarily Curse bot. I honestly can't tell what he's doing in the map, but he definitely does have that blasphemy with the curses on. We have Kamel farming up currency as well. Crying, of course, carry. He did manage to chance his carcass jack earlier today, as well as switch over to the Russian server for a little bit better luck, and so he was able to 6-link that rather quickly. Kamel has farmed up the Atziri steps, I believe, And so you can see here that Kamel's gear is primarily focused on the Magic Find aspect. This is entirely so that Akrine can constantly have those maps ready to roll, you know, ready to bang them out. And we have Gucci as the primary delver, which is something interesting that not every team is doing. I believe Dodomite is also doing it with Carve and Method as Nugi, but I'm not quite so sure about the other teams there. That would be Team Grizzly and Team Monkey Squad. But it does seem like so far we do have at least one person in the group farming Delve. Gucci Products is within that level 83 Delve, and so it'll be interesting to see how many higher tiers they can get from that. The strategy so far is to deep delve. I believe they're at the deepest delve compared to the other teams. They're running Shaped Graveyard as well as a bunch of red tier maps. Now, the Shaped Graveyard is an especially important pickup as Graveyard does have 3 bosses, so that is 3 attempts at a +2 map, but being T12, of course. So they're just permanently sustaining those tier 10s, tier 11s, tier 12s. It's a common theme within all the teams. Pretty much all of them have moved up into this point. Team Method, the crowd favorite, and also the only team to have 2 players rip quite late into the progression here. They are starting to pull back. We have Scissorin as the carry and Havoc 616 on that 5-link Queen of the Forest. It'll be interesting to see if they can catch back up, as they have gone to sleep for quite a while ago. We have Steel Mage as Winter Orb on a 5-link, as well as Havoc 6 both running that Winter Orb. Very popular skill in this race. It does appear like Steel Mage is the primary currency farmer doing I believe it's the Chaos recipe. Same with Kamel, actually. Then we have Nugi over here going deep into Delve, and that's what the 6-link Stormbrand setup is for. They are trying to sustain those tier 5 to 8 maps. Really just for safety more so than anything else. I do believe that Zizaran was pushing well into tier 13s earlier, but for the most part, they're really just banging those lower tiers out, and it does make a lot of sense as it does get pretty dangerous in those higher tier maps. See that they reside within depth 148, and the strategy right now is to get some sleep and hope everybody else rips. Okay. Any
So
thoughts here, Raindog?
yeah, so let's see here. So when the day
Hello.
sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So when the day started, we had Dotem in first place, and they were followed by Grizzlies. And lately, I think after shifting to RF, Rot has just been crushing it. They're almost doing twice the XP per hour as Rice. And when Rice did his little food break recently, they just catched up and passed them, and they're like doing twice the XP of Dotem at the moment.
Yeah, it is interesting to see. It does not appear like Rathlos has gone to sleep yet, and so it'll be interesting to see if, something special is going on there. As not only is he not streaming, but if he might be doing something, a little special, or if it is just through the sheer power of his will. We will have to see if he's, going to be logged in for 70 hours. That might be a little suspicious, but I don't think there's anything going on here. Rathlos is a great guy. Don't believe he would cheat in some sort of case, but I have seen some people comment on the fact that really pushing hard. I think that's
So
just
yeah,
a testament to how great of a player he is.
has not been online more than Rise anyway. So, but I find it kind of interesting. I always like looked a little bit at this broken crown item that he's using. I've seen Isla has been using that as well.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
so, alright, I actually played the Isla Righteous Fire build, and Broken Crown is just an incredibly good helm. Especially if you're going Chaos Inoculation, or just to use it for an Energy Shield helm. It gives an insane amount of Chaos Resist. Basically brings, like, even if you have no Chaos Resist, it brings straight up to 70. So with this, I don't think we're actually going to see Chaos Inoculation, as it does make you immune to Chaos damage. And so Rathalos will most likely be pushing to 100 with that Isla Righteous Fire build, being on low life all the time. Uh, primarily focused on energy shield. It'll be interesting to see if they opt for a six link. I believe they should. Or has quite a few supports for it. Let's make it slightly better in the end game, so it will be interesting to see if they go for that Shaper chest piece, the one that regenerates some of your life on kill or energy shield on kill, or if they will opt for the Chevron's wrappings, which I ended up going for as I couldn't find the Shaper. I played the Vil 200.
Yeah, and another thing that's worth noting with the RF, it's probably one of the lowest efforts to play. It's like basically just run close to stuff. You don't have to click that many buttons, which is really nice when you're playing 30 hours straight.
I definitely agree with that. It does make it way easier to prevent mistakes, as if you see with Rise QT's build, if for whatever reason he's on 30 hours of gameplay, he runs into the map and forgets to channel his Winter Orb, or maybe he doesn't channel it enough, we could be seeing him fall over for no reason. Now that's not an attack on his personal character. That's just how the build performs. With the Righteous Fire build, you definitely just turn it on and you just run into the map. Super easy to game to play, but it does require you to play a pretty fast style. As if you're not constantly killing monsters, you're not going to be recharging your energy shield quite as much, and so you have to be constantly go go go. And so we should see all three remaining members be just farming currency, rolling maps for Rathalos, and really just putting all their eggs into one basket.
So on Team Durham, they've been leading mostly for the last like since the meta drips. They have been in front, but and they prioritized their map base early on, not prioritizing Delve. And Rice did it on his stream. That I think that was a mistake because they have problems sustaining high tier maps at the moment. So not doing the Delve might be a problem. And I think that's one of the reasons why Monkey Squad might have been catching up, and the same with Avengers. So we'll see if they're able to get down in the delve and get some of those good maps, as you stated earlier. They sort of supplant themselves. If you get a 15 drop, that might give you a few 14s, that might give you a few 13s, and that really adds up when you start getting up in the high XP penalty levels.
While watching Rise earlier, I did notice that while they were pushing their first few maps, Carve was talking about how far behind they are in Delve. Rise PT was actually the one saying we needed the maps, so our decision was justified. But I do believe that there's a sense of teamwork in that. If the shot caller or anybody in your group, for that matter, says that we decided on a reason or a decision for a reason, Carve kept really pushing that, like saying like we need to catch up and delve and everything. I do believe that's caused a little bit of extra pressure on Rise as well as the rest of the group. It is fairly easy to see like, well, we should have pushed delve earlier, but um, is quite a bit of cynicism there. So it'll be interesting to see if that plays a effect on their psyche at all. Their mental.
So Gorada started to map with Rice before Rice decided to have something to eat, and then he said something about my carry abandoned me, so I go to sleep. So that was pretty funny. Another thing that's pretty cool with Gorada's build, I've never seen this before, is actually running Bane with Generosity, because Bane gives increased shock to grants a shock aura, so he's giving that to Rice when he hits stuff with the smite. That's a pretty cool setup. And also, he's running, I think, two offensive curses: elemental weakness and projectile weakness, and temporal chains. And they got the incandescent heart as well, which is a super nice chest for survivability.
Right. Anything else you want to mention about these teams?
They just Vagel has his pseudo 5 link Shaper helmet with trap support for his lightning spire trap, so that's nice. I think they're and Rice got his explosion scepter, which seems to be a pattern. We'll see that on Sis as well. They get these scepters that causes enemies to explode for 5% of their HP when they die. So adds up with the clear speed.
Yeah. Personally, I didn't really like it as much, but it is basically like a mini Impulsa in a sense. And so it'll be interesting to see, if they get an impulsive drop, will they switch it out? But so far, like you said, it does look like it's going to be the six link Winter Orb setup for most of these teams here with the Explosion Scepter. So that's something that we'll have to keep an eye out for to see if other teams do you know drive onto it. We wanna
So heading out to Grizzly. They're technically still in third place, but their highest level character is at level 89. I would just assume that they're gonna give up on the race and not doing anymore. They had a double rip in the same map, I think, with their carry and support. I believe we have a clip for that we'll show afterwards. So that's interesting and a little bit sad. They were doing really well and sort of a more unknown team, so that's too bad.
yeah, definitely got to give them props for the amount of effort, and even though it is only 27 hours in so far, definitely shown that they're forced to be reckoned with.
So heading over to Avengers. So they're actually the only team that doesn't have any single death so far. Like if you compare that to Monkey Squad, everybody in Monkey Squad except Wrath has died. So the Avengers actually, and they also haven't done the strategy that Dotem has done, where they're only pushing Rise. So basically, they have two characters at 94 and one in 93. So they're the only team that can afford actually losing at one of their top guys and still be in the race, which is kind of interesting. I'm not sure quite how they're mapping. Like they might be,
So
might be, might be mapping separately and trying just to push all three characters, or more likely they're pushing two characters with Gucci and Crying, and Tai is just supporting one of them.
yeah, so watching the Avengers is pretty interesting. Tide 23 is mapping with Crying as sort of like a but like a curse spot. Can't really tell what skill he's using there, but he definitely is running around cursing everything, getting that assassin's mark, I believe, for Crying. And then Gucci is mapping by himself, farming Delve, that sort of thing. While Crying is definitely farming up currency for the whole group, playing a very hard support sort of style, or more of a passive support. Definitely his role shouldn't be underrated by any means. Definitely putting in work for the rest of the team. So it will be interesting to see if one of the carries, like Crying, were to die. Definitely Tide 23 would just group up with Gucci, and I guess you could say it would be all Gucci.
Yeah, I think Gucci has been doing a lot of delves, and also it looks like they've been farming at series from the boots of
Hmm.
Crying. And they also got this Carcass Jack. So I've never played Winter Orbit Carcass Jack. Does it like increase the area the projectiles travel, or just the area of the explosions from the
So
heralds?
So it actually does both. It increases your area of effect for not only the winter orb projectiles, but also your Herald of Ice as well as proliferation. So it's a massive upgrade for Team Avengers here. We do have the clip of that, so we'll be showing that shortly. Yeah, Carcass Jack just for so much benefit. I've had numerous friends say that, if they can't afford an Impulses, what should I buy? And the answer is always Carcass Jack. And so even though Impulses is very difficult to, afford for a lot of people or just to find as it's a tier 1 unique now, Carcass Jack is definitely a very viable alternative.
Yeah, and they're definitely a team that's been pushing Delve early and hard, and that investment is probably paying off now. So I would not be surprised if once they get out from sleeping, if they're not sleeping too much. So when Team Dotam goes to sleep, I think these guys will overtake them. I think the investment into Delve will be very significant, and they will really be catching up.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're opting to farm just like their tier 10s, mostly just shaped graveyard, lots of different red tier maps and above. And I think what they're trying to do right now is get a really big map pool of what they want to run. I assume it would be something like Shaped Moon Temple. These Team Avengers here are the people who pushed the first Guardian, that being Phoenix, and I believe Gucci was the one to take it down. Definitely a very good team here. Any
So
other thoughts?
heading over to Team Method. So I would imagine they're kind of disheartened. This is sort of their race and everything, and they really were the only paid team, and they're the sponsored team, and they're now in, well, technically in fifth, but probably in fourth. So, and they had these two rips on both of their top level guys, even though they're catching up, and Ciceron is back at level 92, being the highest in his team. It's I think it's a rough day, and they went to sleep after only 24 hours. So, but their equipment looks good. Ciceron has his explosion scepter and has been using the gloves for Rampage, which increases your mapping speed additionally. Rampage is super good for fast clearing, so that's good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It has been quite a rough day for Method, but the entire benefit of playing with a team is that they can really power these. They can really enable Zizaran and Havoc here. Steel Mage and Nugi being able to farm up, especially Nugi in that delve. You do get to see that Havoc and Zizaran are able to gear up very quickly, despite ripping about 6 to 9 hours in. And so you do get to see the strength of Method being able to force back a fourth place position here. But it will be interesting to see because as this is a race to 100, it could just take one group dying at 98 or 97, and all of a sudden Method are ahead. So definitely not too early to keep rooting for Method. I definitely think they
Yeah, I
could
agree
pull it
with
out in the
that.
end.
I think like for both Wrath and Rice is the only high level player in their team, and especially with Rice that is doing less XP than Wrath, he might just really feel that he has to push everything a little bit more, a little bit faster. Then it's super easy to die, and he usually dies at 98, as the meme tells.
Well, we might not see that this time around, but that is definitely a possibility.
And also the effect of the delve might kick in as well,
Mhm.
as if they're getting a good map pool, Sis is arrested and gets, like with his rampage and his boom boom stick, just plows through everything. I think they can probably be the team that's doing the highest XP. Like I think a good Winter Orb character will be faster than RF if played optimally, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, so I think like the fully geared Winter Orb, you've got Rampage, but the biggest upgrade for Zizaran will be that Solstice Vigil from Shaper. It does look like Nugian will be the one to take down Shaper if they can. It will be interesting to see. The real reason why Solstice Vigil is so good on the skill is that it makes every buff last 33% longer. That includes things like any shrine, the Winter Orb effect itself. It just makes the playstyle of the entire build so much better. So it is definitely a big pickup that they can pick up within probably the next day or so. They are into high red tier maps in some cases. Any other comments on the top teams here?
I think there are some teams behind on the ladder, but they're too far behind. They're behind Method, so basically I think they're out of the competition. But I guess we could have a look at the clips. We have a few clips, right?
Yeah, we do. Here, let me bring them up. Which ones are we starting with going down?
I think we can start with a double rip, right?
Yeah.
the rip that removed Grizzly from the game.
Is that the one you sent right here?
Yeah, I think so.
The double
I
rip.
know it.
Oh!
You died. Rip.
Wow.
Wait.
Unlucky.
Nice map.
No.
Wait, does
Nice.
Ice Nova affect the? I mean, does damage rounds
Whoa.
affect the Ice
Yeah.
Nova?
Was a good run, boys.
Oh.
Shouldn't have used the
Wait,
second
you died
XP
as well?
scepter.
That's a double kill, dude.
Unlucky.
Yeah, I mean we had no maps.
Wow.
I know it.
And just watching it
You
again,
died.
definitely is pretty difficult to, you know, everybody will most likely laugh, but
So what?
chances are he got stuck in here and, he wanted to run out. As you can see, it's I think it's I don't think it's in KOE, but it's definitely LE weakness, with a bunch of extra damage mods on it. And so he was
Yeah,
trying
that
to hide
is
in this corner.
brutal. You also have the chain, and they're standing close to each
You died.
other, and yeah, and vulnerability as well. This is a really brutal map.
Definitely.
Unlucky.
And then I guess
Nice map.
I'd like to correct myself, saying that they ran it down. It does appear like
Nice.
Ice Nova effect.
they had no
I mean,
intention
does
of
damage ones affect them?
ripping
Ice
themselves here,
That
but
was a good run, boys.
based on the
Shouldn't have used
Wait,
reaction,
you guys
they definitely did not expect to go down here.
Unlucky.
No, and like
Yeah, I mean,
he's used to have his support with him, and he's still running the tabula, I think, if you look at the character. So he's really not that tanky, and with all those mods, if you get hit by that guy, you're just going down,
Unlucky.
especially without your support.
Nice map.
Definitely. Right.
Wait, does Ice
Next
Nova
clip,
effect?
I believe.
I mean, does damage ones affect them? Ice
Yeah.
Nova?
Alright, which
That was
one?
a good run, boys.
We're doing Yugi's like.
Shouldn't have used the
Wait,
second
you guys-
experience.
Let's do cryings. This piece. This is
Oh, thank
the
fucking
Chancellor
God,
here.
dude! Yes!
Watching him, he definitely was pretty tired leading up to this moment, so being able to see this upgrade was pretty good.
Chance to dude.
Quite a lot of fun.
Oh, you changed it.
I was chancing all like
You're
the
fucked.
fucking status and like
I believe he said his still go for the impulses, but I just you can see that they're real
Oh,
quick Chancellor there.
thank fucking God, dude!
And then going on to the 6th linking, he did spend, oh, that's actually just a stream, he did spend quite a few links here before doing this. I believe it was around 200 or so of his own. We asked for it from his group. Somebody in chat said to switch to Russia because that helps for some reason. And so he just started laughing. I think he lost it a little bit here, but wanted to show that he did indeed switch to the place where he has 200 MS, since that does slow down his linking, but you know, for him it didn't even matter. As you can see, starts going for the 5 link here, and he gets it.
Usually use those horizons, I'd have like probably just. I guess like you're still fucked right on.
And now he himself, as well as his teammates, have said to go for the 5 link only. And running low on fusings here, he did you know, let's go forward a little bit. He did start slowing down. Yes, this is crying, and he's actually crying in real life. You can definitely tell that he starts slowing down for the 5 link here, just looking for it. So being able to find it, he just overwhelmed with joy, as to be expected.
I really just love the fact that he goes into Russia. The Russian luck. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that was a little monk on the side there, but I guess it paid off in a sense. And well, we have like 5 clips here of Nugi having some pretty close calls. Do we want to play any of them?
Sure, we can do at least 1 or 2.
All right, this one here.
Like it can sort of illustrate how dangerous actually going for the deep delve is when you're not the prioritized carry.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What's going on? Wait! It just what? What is this drive-by? The cart has gone mad. It has gone mad. It's just driving through nodes.
Yeah, so this is
What is going on?
used to be a bug that they had with the cart just going, you know, with a little bit of a drive-by there. Wait.
No! What?
I actually haven't seen this one.
What
so
is going on?
This is
It did it again.
interesting. Let's see if he's still gaining experience.
I don't remember
doesn't
where I'm
feel like his
going.
experience bar is
Wait, it went
moving.
outside. Wait, why did it go on the out? Wait, what? It didn't go through. It went on the outside. What is this?
See if it
I
does
guess
stuff.
they have implemented the same thing as chaining memories or
Okay,
something. Like you could just
we found
put
the
up your
way.
entire part and it just goes on.
Yeah. Why didn't go in? Wait, what?
Definitely see not intended.
What's going on? Wait. It just what? What is this drive-by?
For free, maybe.
The card has gone
Like
mad.
the same, you're going to sleep for the
It has
night.
gone mad.
Alright, going on to some of these ear rip clips here. If I can grab one of them up.
A chest room.
In 82 tempo right now, this is difficult. This is really laggy. Difficult as in my damage though. Which doesn't make sense for Inquisitor.
He did run into the darkness there, which does make it so you take a little bit more extra damage. You can just see the expression on his face.
In 82 tempo right now, this is difficult. This is really laggy.
Like he got down to
Difficult as in my
500
damage
life
though.
there.
Which doesn't make sense for Inquisitor.
God.
Losing Nugi in there would be just heartbreaking for them, having their probably at that time their highest level character rip again.
Yeah, that definitely would be fairly devastating, especially since Nugian is really just the low-level delver here, or the deep delver, I should say. You know, he's really the one that it's like the glue. Same with Gucci, but we'll have to see, you know, if anything happens within a day or so. All right. Anything else you want to talk about here? The clips.
I think we're good. We should have a look into Wrath and his build, because he's respec probably into the RF build, and he's currently the ones going fastest. So we should have a breakdown on that. That's probably a completely new layout. And one of the advantages of like finishing respecing your characters is that you can sell all your regrets for chance orbs. So that is a big advantage as well once you sort of finished up your current setup.
Oh yeah, we can go Rathalos here. Oh, he's actually in the chat. Hello, Wrath. And I hope you don't mind us going over your gear here. Yeah, so playing the Isle of Righteous Fire build, definitely want to switch around level 90, and so you can see that he's done that here. Level should be 95 now. Well done by him. For the wand here, he's just got socketed spells on spellcast. That's a very interesting pickup, primarily for two things here. The attack speed, which makes shield charge faster, as well as the added lightning damage. Now the added lightning damage will be proccing the special thing on his tree called Elemental Equilibrium. So what happens is he shield charges into packs, they take lightning damage, and now because of this node right here, they get a teeny bit more lightning damage resist, but as the build is purely fire here, you can see that he gets that monsters get minus 50% resist to fire and cold, and so that is a very nice weapon there. Not quite sure how the gain lightning as extra chaos plays it out, or if that even counts as elemental, but definitely a really good weapon. As you've mentioned, the Broken Crown is just an insanely good helmet. Gives a very nice amount of chaos res, as well as almost 200 energy shield. Looking on now, obviously the cast on death has no effect, but this is a super cheap helmet that a lot of hybrid builds could take advantage of. It's not really something we see too often. Look on the shield here, we've got the Immortal Call cast when damage taken setup with a very nice shield, about 300 energy shield. Flame dash. Let's see. He should be running shield charge. Oh, he's not. Alright. Then it feels like he's just running around with this Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. Yeah, I mean his flame dash isn't linked to any faster casting or anything, but it does look like he's running around and taking the mobs head on. Looking at the boots, Sintrek are an obvious choice. Very nice amount of energy shield, the 150 here. Just a super easy pickup. Very expensive this league, as they are quite popular and very common for people to use. But definitely one of the best boots for energy shield builds. You know, you're not going to find much better than this unless you were to start fossil crafting, but you know, maybe that's something we'll see from the top teams in a bit. The belt, the bated breath, definitely gives a lot of energy shield here. One of the best belts in my opinion, especially for defensives. Now, if you wanted to go super fast, you know, Abisco's Leash is the best bet that they're going to get. But in these sort of races, you don't really want to, focus too heavily on the speeds. All it takes is, one wrong move at level 98, and maybe this energy shield here will put them over. You have they are going for the corruption, so it will be interesting to see what they go for here. And oh, it does appear like he's using phase run with enhance, so that is pretty nice, to be honest. It does look like they put some gem cutters on that, and so that will be hitting level 3 shortly. Lots of experience, definitely, by Rathalos. Looking at his gloves here, he's got 160 ES gloves, very nice. Got a little bit of resistances to boot. Let's go on to the rings. Just some energy shield and a lot of resistances. Unfortunately, you cannot craft energy shield, percent energy shield on rings anymore. And so you can see that in both rings, he just has, prioritizing the energy shield and the resist here. Will be interesting to see if he replaces the diamond ring, but I don't think he has to, as his gear is actually pretty good. And then again, looking at the amulet, we've got the percent energy shield, which can be rolled on amulets. It does appear like he's got a fractured one, so maybe he crafted that a little bit. But you can see it's got an insane amount of energy shield, quite a bit of resist. It will be interesting to see if they opt to Exalt Slam this, as this is a potential endgame amulet for him. So as they start getting more currency, it will be interesting to see. The chest piece, as I mentioned, you can either opt for the Sixling Chevrons or an Occultus or some sort of Shaper chest piece with an energy shield base, such as a Vol Regalia. And so all you're looking for here really is to recover maximum energy shield on kill, primarily focusing on getting that roll. So you'll run around with the Righteous Fire, blowing up the map, getting a ton of energy shield on the chest piece as well as from kills. Not quite sure why they haven't divined the 5% up to 6%, but that might just be a lack of currency there. Definitely the biggest roll there compared to the teeny bit of extra energy shield you get as benefit. So I think that might be a little bit of a mistake, but it could also just be a lack of currency. Moving on to the flasks here, we definitely expected to see the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. This paired with Phase Run makes him incredibly fast. Wouldn't be surprised to see the flask nodes up here. Yep, Alchemist, of course. Along with the other flasks here, we have Granite Flask of Iron Skin, providing him with a ton of physical mitigation. The Ruby Flask of Heat, providing him with freeze immunity. The Silver Flask of Staunching here, provide bleed immunity, and of Warding for curse immunity. Now, he is not Chaos Inoculation. That's just how the build performs. The build requires you to have both life to activate Righteous Fire and energy shield to maintain it through things such as the chest piece and the ascendancy. And so the benefit of this, going that energy shield route, is that you don't need life flasks in any way, and so you're able to get the full benefit out of five flasks at once. Anything you want to mention here about the gear?
So, as we mentioned, the elemental equilibrium is sort of a very nice interaction with the Righteous Fire. That Righteous Fire doesn't hit, it just creates a degen aura, or like a burning aura. So that doesn't trigger the elemental equilibrium. That's why it's working out so nicely. He's also running an Onslaught Jewel, which is basically just Onslaught. That would be his Eye Jewel up in the Witch area.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. I don't think that does anything else for him. It just needs the Onslaught to get some more movement speed.
Yeah.
And he's roughly at 2,200 life and 7,000 ES with a Chaos Resist of 68.
Yeah, definitely a really nice jewel here. I mean, can look to replace the Silver Flask, so provided that he's using this new Surging Eye Jewel, it would be interesting to see if he wants to opt to pick up something like a Topaz Flask or Sapphire Flask. In some cases, he will have to replace the flask, obviously, but being able to use that extra resist flask would be a super nice pickup. As you mentioned, in the 2.2k life and the 7,000 energy shield is really, really nice for a build like this. As well as the chaos resist is, the way that chaos resist works is that it basically assumes that you have 75%, negative 75% at all times, and so it's kind of scaled around that in a sense, so that even if you were still negative, like maybe say negative 5%, it's almost like you have 75% fire res and you're taking just way less damage overall. So as you start reaching those 60% Chaos Res, 68%. I mean, the Chaos damage is not even hitting you at that point. Like, it's almost like you're evading those attacks because you mitigate so much damage from them. It is somewhat important to pick up that 75%, but it's, you know, not really something to worry about too much unless you're running straight into Incursion, so that will be something interesting to see.
So he also picked up the Overcharged, which is a sort of a far way for not that for the only 1 point, but I guess it's a way for him to sustain 3 Frenzy and 3 Endurance charges for a little more like attack speed and physical mitigation. Is that common for this spell?
Yeah, it's super common. You have to remember that not only do you get the frenzy charges for extra damage and a little bit extra benefit, the endurance charges are super useful, but a really underrated thing here is the power charges providing the extra crit. Because you are elemental overload, being able to crit consistently means that you're basically always getting this off. And so the overcharged is actually a very nice node. The only replacement for this is, I believe it's a Shaper Amulet, which can give you a chance to give power, frenzy, or endurance charges on kill, basically doing what this does. It will be interesting to see if they want to, you know, go for the slams on their current amulet, or more benefits such as energy shield, or if they opt to craft around a shaper amulet so that they can get an extra 4 points here. The way that Righteous Fire functions is that it basically sacrifices your life here for damage, and so being able to replace these 4 points with some more energy shield would mean that not only is he tankier, but that he also deals more damage, which is super nice for the higher tiers. It does look like he's going over towards the nodes over here. Entropy, definitely a pretty nice pickup. Pretty standard Righteous Fire tree, but something interesting that we don't really see that often with these kind of trees is that he picked up Spiritual Aid here. Now, I don't think that was super, not really normal, and also if you look on the other parts of the tree, we don't see much minion damage here, so that might be a mistake, but it could also just be a big glowy brain idea that I'm just blown away by.
It's about 70% dot DPS, so it's definitely not negligible.
Oh, okay. Alright. That's pretty big.
Another thing that I find kind of interesting, like when I played Righteous Fire, I've been doing the old Juggernaut with the stacking fire res and everything, and his fire res is just 75 flat. So he's still able to sustain. Is that mainly due to the cultist ascendancy regenerating?
Yeah, so a lot of it's mainly due to his occultist tendency. You have to remember that the ruby flask here no longer makes it so you have like 8% maximum risk. This makes you take you know, less fire damage. You can see that he has the flask jewel. I believe it's where is it? This one right here. So this does increase the effectiveness of your flasks in addition to these flask nodes up here, which does make it so he takes less damage, but as an occultist, you don't have as much regeneration as a juggernaut, and so the primary way that your build functions is that as you are killing monsters, your I believe it's Vile Bastion here, yes it is, regenerates your energy shield for every enemy that you've killed recently, and so definitely keeps you very safe as so long as you're killing monsters, and so that's why typically you'll see the respec into Occultist Energy Shield Righteous Fire late into the 90s. It's just a super fast, efficient build overall. Anything else you want to note about the tree?
I think we're good. We should probably head over to Rise since he's main competitor.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Going over the gear here, we do have the Explodey Stick, as mentioned earlier, with a little bit of cold damage on it. At the helm here, we have some life, really good helmet. I believe this is the same helmet that he was using earlier, so I don't think this one's going to get replaced anytime soon. Definitely a lot of life and resist on that one. The Chaos Res, as I mentioned earlier, the tiniest bit still does help out by quite a bit, as the game is somewhat balanced around, you know, potentially one-shotting you at negative 75% Chaos Res, and dealing significantly less damage as you start to pick up more and more Chaos Res. Looking at the shield here, we can see that he has the same crit shield that he had yesterday, and so just super nice, you know, primarily for the crit here. Shield, definitely a lot of resist as well, and with the craft there, not providing with much energy shield, but it does give him an insane amount of life. Looking at the boots, we can see that I believe it's the same boots with just the 25% movement speed, the life roll, and definitely get that life leech enchant on there. I don't know if we saw an enchant on. Oh, we did see the leech enchant on Rathalos here. Definitely super nice pickup. We can go over to belt here. Some more life, lots of life. I think this is the same belt he was using yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, but definitely super nice. Looking at the gloves here, he does have the +1 to socketed AoE gems, and so he does have the Ball Stormcall in there for his single target purposes. If you remember yesterday, he was using a Vol Stormcall with 2 supports and a Lightning Spire trap, so that was an interesting pickup by him. It does appear like his pure single target is focused around that Ball Stormcall now. Looking at his rings, he has, or actually, let's do the rings. He's got the, I believe this is the same one as yesterday with just the life and resist here with a little bit of dexterity. And then the other ring I think is the same as well with some life and res, tiny bit of mana on both the rings. That is to help him out with mind over matter. Looking at the amulet here, I believe this is a new pickup with the crit multi being super nice, as well as the cast speed with the spell damage and strength and life. I mean, this is just a super nice amulet, provided that you don't need the resistances in places. So this is where you start to see like the differences in gear really shine through as you get more and more resist on say things like your helmet, your shield. You don't need them quite as much on your amulet, and so you can opt for a very high damage amulet such as this one. Looking at the chess piece here, again, it's the 6-link Queen of the Forest. Most likely will be using this throughout the rest of the race, and so it will be interesting to see if he replaces this, provided that he dies, but I do believe they have some backups with the team. And so, not backup Queen of the Forest, but backup chess piece. It will be interesting to see if they offer anything else here. Looking at the gems, he does have the shield charge with Fortify setup. Definitely super defensive. This is the main reason that I thought that Rathalos was going for shield charge, is that going the shield charge provides you with the Fortify support. This makes you very tanky to physical damage. Does look like he has a Herald of Ice Onslaught and Warlord's Mark set up with the Curse on hit here. Definitely a super defensive, super nice setup. Gives you a little bit of leech as well as the endurance charges, basically guaranteed as it's proccing all the time. We have the Frost Bomb, faster casting Flame Dash, and I'm not quite sure how effective the Frost Bomb is, but I think with the newest buffs, it does make the Winter Orb single target fairly bearable, especially in these higher tier maps. Looking at the boots, again, it's the same Immortal Call, cast damage taken, Warlord's Mark setup just for a little bit of extra defensives. And his gloves, again, he's got the Vol Storm Call, Lightning Penetration effect, and less duration. That is so that as he calls down the Vol Storm Call, it comes down near instantly. Definitely a super nice single target setup here, and very interesting to see. I believe his Winter Orb is the same, although he did get a level 21 earlier, it seems. Got the increased critical strikes, the infused channeling, the hypothermia, the cold penetration, and the GMP. I don't believe these are going to be swapped out at any point, as it is fairly difficult to get so many off colors on this chest piece. Looking at the flasks here, we have the Seething Divine Life Flask of Heat. We have an Experimenter's Diamond Flask of Warding. We have the Ample Jade Flask of Reflexes, and it is interesting to note that he doesn't opt for the Alchemist Jade Flask of Reflexes here, which does make it so you get a ton more evasion, but it doesn't appear to have too much of an effect on him. Of course, he's got the Stibnite Flask of Staunching here. His bleed immunity is on one of his common flasks. And then, again, the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. It's just too good to pass up. I don't really know if they don't have enough gems cutters to, or not gem cutters, baubles to split between them, but this thing is definitely not qualityed up all the way that it should be. But any thoughts on the gear here?
No, it looks very similar to yesterday. Well, last cast, and I think like the Boom Boom Scepter is probably the biggest upgrade. Improves the clear speed. And I think mainly the problem for them now is that they're not sustaining high enough tier maps to really challenge the build. More than that, the gear isn't sufficient.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just gonna do a quick overview of the passive tree, as there hasn't been too much change over the past day. Again, just going for the
So
duration.
So regarding the passive trees, something that I find a little bit interesting is that they have only picked up one jewel socket. They have two jewel sockets that are like two for pathing and quite a few that are three for pathing. Is it like in general that Winter Orb doesn't benefit that much for jewels, or is it that they just doesn't have any or have prioritized other stuff?
So the thing going on here is that they just haven't found enough. Definitely jewels are incredible for almost every build in the game, but to be able to get that really nice, jewel would require a bit of luck. Even if there are 4 people farming, it will be interesting to see if someone like Carve will be crafting one of the jewels. But so far, like you mentioned, it's very interesting to see that they only have one jewel here, as they can pick up the 2-point jewel socket right here, and then they have numerous another 2 node right here. They have a 3-point jewel socket over here, and a 4-point jewel socket over here. And so it will be interesting to see as he gets those more, and a 3 socket right here, as he gets more levels on his build. If he does opt to go for those jewel sockets, definitely will be a really big pickup for him. But so far, no luck it seems. Anything else you want to comment on the passive tree here?
Not really. I think we went over it last time. If people in chat wanna like have something explained, I guess they can give us a shout and we can just jump over to Crying. Or I think Crying is the only one who has open profile of the other top players.
Yeah. We can look at Zizzern as well if you'd like to give a gander over that. I do believe he died in the last one.
Okay, we can do this first or Crying first. I guess we can do
Yeah, let's do
higher up.
Alright. Yeah, I changed the camera angle a tiny bit. It's just because I'm mostly staring at this monitor, so I just wanted to look at that, regardless of what's going on in the background. Going over the gear here, we do have a very nice cast speed wand. Profane wand is the base that you want to look for in most of these builds. Just gives the 14 to 16% cast speed on the implicit. Definitely one of the best wands, especially for racing. I do find myself putting these in my filter and really going for these ones. They are the best choice here. You can see that this just has like one of the maxed cast speed rolls basically. Like this wand alone gives him 36% cast speed on top of the spell damage and extra fire damage there, but that doesn't play too much of a part compared to if you look at his other wand here, it's really just for more spell damage. Not a whole lot of cast speed here, so it does look like he's struggling to get that second profane wand. You probably will see a new pickup within the next day or so here. There is something called, well, I don't have an exact term for it, but as you start to play more and more, you start to disregard your current gear more and more, and so upgrades start to become like something that are kind of pushed off in a sense. After playing for 24 hours, it's super easy to see, like, well, this one isn't very good, but sitting here and crafting one would take too much, just be too much. So it's most likely will be replaced in the next day. Looking at the helm here, again, it's the same helm he was using, the insane 123 life helmet. An interesting pickup is that they do have the Adziri step here. Definitely super defensive, and something that I mentioned with the Trickster, just dodging everything. Going on to the belt, I believe this is the same belt, same jewel for Onslaught and Kill. Looking at the gloves here, it does appear like he has I believe these are the same gloves with 84 life and the tri-res, so definitely there. Looking at the rings, we have more life. It does appear like this is synthesized to have mana on it. I don't think we're going to see any, or I believe this is a fractured item is what they call it, and so putting 3 of those into the synthesizer turns it into a synthesis item, and so it will be interesting if we see any pickups on that. But it does appear like a lot of their items are coming from these fragment memories. Going on to the other ring here, it is like it does appear like maybe they crafted this or something like that, as the 15% all res is the fractured mod here, and then the with some little bit of life crafted with the cast speed. Going on to the amulet here, it's just the cast speed and the 83 life that really saved this amulet. Being able to craft on the res is obviously super nice. Stock standard here, and then obviously the carcass jack. I mean, this is just like a second best choice. Obviously, the impulses.
It's really nice rolls though, like the big area, good life.
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, the increased area effect not only affects how much your winter orb attacks, but also things like your Herald of Ice and your proliferation. And so it's just a super nice pickup overall. Got the life, the AoE, the area damage, and the all-res. It will be interesting to see if the extra gore plays a part, as it is known for lagging out computers a little bit extra, but not quite as much as Impulses, so it doesn't have quite the same status around it. Going on to the flask here, we do have, again, the instant bubbling Divine Life Flask of Staunching, the Quartz Flask of Heat, and it does appear like it belongs to the Avengers, so this should be an Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, as expected from all the top teams here. We have a Jade Flask of Grounding. Now, Shock is very, very dangerous in some of these higher tier maps, and so seeing the Shock community is quite a bit of a lifesaver in cases. Then we have the Basalt Flask of Warding here. Opted for the Basalt Flask instead of the Granite, and that might just be because he has a decent amount of armor from like the glove, and well, that appears to just be the glove. So not quite sure if that's a mistake or not. I think the Granite would give him slightly more, but getting 15% physical damage mitigation is pretty nice.
So one of the advantages of the Basalt is that that's flat physical mitigation that doesn't care about the size of the hit. So I believe that might be better for large single target hits compared to the armor that would be beneficial more at the low end.
Oh, okay. Going on to
the damage reduction of the armor is dependent on the size of the hit, so the flat 15 is really beneficial for a lot. That's one of the reasons why the Juggernaut gets so tanky, because of all of his endurance charges. They always give the flat damage reduction regardless of the size of the hit.
Oh, okay. Going on to the gems here, to start on the weapon, we do see that he has the Arctic armor that he was using yesterday, along with the Vol Righteous Fire for some single target. You activate this and you get 28% more spell damage, so it is like an extra link in a sense. And again, he's got the Herald of Thunder, which I don't think he's actually using. It is only level 19 here. Looking at the helm setup, again, we get the Lightning Spire Trap, Trap of Mind Damage, Elemental Destruction here. Definitely just focusing in on that single target for the Lightning Spire Trap. On his wand, he's got the Flame Dash Faster Casting, about to hit 2020, so that is pretty noticeable for the cooldown recovery speed, as well as just the cast speed itself. Super nice mobility setup here, and it will be, it is bolstered up by how much cast speed he has on the build, with his amulet, his ring, and his other wand here. Looking at the boots, he does have the same Herald of Ice, Ice Bite, Hypothermia, and Innervate setup. Definitely does add quite a lot of damage, as well as the extra freeze chance makes it just super nice. It's interesting to see that he doesn't opt for a Warlord's Mark setup here, but I believe that's still on his cast when damage taken in the gloves. If we take a look, but he does still have the Immortal Call setup. Sorry, go ahead.
I think Camel just joined the chat.
Hey Camel, how's it going?
Hey babes.
Hey.
I just wanted to say I love you, and we're about to start pushing again.
Hell yeah, dude. Alright.
Godspeed. I'll see you on the other side.
Godspeed, Avengers. Thanks for saving the Earth. Right,
good luck, man.
Looking at the chest piece here, he does have the Winter Orb, Infused Channeling, Faster Casting, and Increased Duration setup with GMP and Hypothermia. Interesting that he doesn't use the Ice Bite, as most teams have shied away from that. But we do actually, now that I think about it, with Tide 23 being a curse spot in a sense, he can just use Warlord's Mark from Tide 23 in Blasphemy, or if he's not cursing him himself. And so that might just be where most of his charges come from, is from Tide 23. So fairly standard Winter Orb setup here. Anything you'd like to note about the gear?
So I think it is interesting that they have, this is clearly a pre-planned strategy, like chancing the Carcass Jack, farming the Atsiris Stride. They sort of prioritize dodge. They're like a little over 50% for both spell dodge and a hit dodge. So they have decided to design their defenses differently from the other teams with Mind Over Matter and Energy Shield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a super strong setup. As you mentioned, probably, if not, definitely planned out well in advance. Looking onto the passive tree here, we can see that not much has changed, but he does have the phase acrobatics here. As you mentioned, just super defensive, super heavily invested into dodge, which, although I really love dodge in the sense that if you have 80% dodge chance or evasion chance, you're only taking a fifth of the damage that you normally would. But the reason why I really don't like evasion in most cases is that even if you only take a fifth of the damage technically, all it takes is that 1 in 1,000 chance for you to take, to get hit by everything, and then your dodge chance is basically useless. And so I know that averaged out dodge chance is really, really good, but you have to remember that they're going into thousands of, packs of monsters, if not, hundreds of thousands. And so all it takes is that one chance where, his dodge chance just doesn't come through. Looking at the rest of his gear here, it does look like he has a jewel here and here, and none other. But pretty standard tree so far from the Winter Orb. Definitely investing a lot more into the Scion Life Wheel. How does that play out for the life count for Crying here?
So let's have a look here. It's about 6k. So he's definitely one of, like, if you disregard a dodge, I think he's probably the build that's most vulnerable to getting one shot.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like, a lot of mitigation, he's got a lot of dodge chance, so it's mostly going to be up to his player skill in certain situations, but the build is just super defensive and definitely a nice pickup by them. It will be interesting to see if they get some more jewels going, as it seems like so far most of this is just for, like this jewel is just spell damage and cast speed. If if groups start getting their hands on some pretty nice 3 modded jewels, we might see a few slams coming up within the next day or so. Anything else you want to note here about the passive tree?
No, I think it's good. I think you covered most of it. It's the
Alright.
same as you said with the other ones. They have access to a lot of 2-socket and 3-socket jewels, and hopefully they will be able to pick them up and get going. And that's a lot of both defenses and offenses that it's possible to get from them. So
Looking on to Zizarin here, we can see that he has the boomstick right away with the explode dealing 5% of the life, and it does appear like you got the roll for damage penetrates elemental resistances. Definitely a really nice scepter here with the area damage as well. There's not much cast speed on it, but you can see that this thing will just destroy through most of the packs. Going on to a shield, he does have the Esh's Mirror here, same as I believe Rathalos had yesterday. And so again, as we mentioned, Esh's Mirror does give you the lightning damage as you've killed recently, which just keeps stacking on top of itself to ridiculous amounts in most cases. So definitely a really nice pickup for any clear speed build. He does have the Devoto's Devotion for some more movement speed actually. Most of the other stats aren't benefiting him too much, as more likely than not, he doesn't really need the dexterity, and so in the chaos resist almost negligible in this sort of piece. So it will be interesting to see if he opts for a more defensive helmet in the future. But Photo's Devotion is definitely pretty big for the speeds there with the 20% movement speed. Looking at the boots here, we have just some nice movement speed life boots with the Leech enchant, as we've seen as a common trend among the other teams. The Bisco's Leash, definitely a very good pickup. One of the best belts for clear speed. Don't know why it's so low rolled. Maybe teams just haven't gotten too many hands on divines, or they can't spare them enough. But this resist roll can go up to 40%, which may save a gear slot in some cases. So it could be just the potential that they don't really need it, but definitely would be worth throwing at least one divine on that bad boy. Maybe probably not worth the Vol Orb quite yet, as this is a very rare belt from my experience this past patch. Looking at the gloves, again, we just have a lot of life and quite a bit of resistances. And going on to the rings here, we have 74 life and quite a bit of res. Don't know how impactful that adds damage roll is, but we might see it be fairly popular. The Gronk here. Really?
I think so, unless he has updated a lot of the stuff. So you might, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the wrong one.
we're in. Huh. Well, forget everything
Should
that I
be
just said.
GSF.
Yeah, GSF.
Sister.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Everyone is cute. I didn't even notice. Talking about the worm sign here, I was a little bit confused where the rampage item went, but I figured that they just got the belt. All right. Whew. Okay, going over this gear instead. So disregard everything that I said. Maybe I'll cut that out. But again, we have the explodey stick. Everything just sort of matched up. Zizaran does really like his explodey sticks. Definitely a lot of spell damage on this bad boy. Look at the offhand scepter here. He does have the spell damage and a little bit of cast speed, but really, what you want here is the sandbar scepter. If not, maybe some shield here in the offhand, but chances are he's going dark arts, and so he does need the benefit from dual wielding here with the cast speed and everything. He is opted for the full wheel, which is something that we're not really seeing from the other contenders, but we can talk about that a little bit more in the passive tree section. Looking at the helmet, again, he's just got the nice life and resists. The boots should be life resist and movement speed. The 30% with the leech, again, just a common occurrence between all the teams. Belt here, again with the jewelry, or the jewel that gives you 8% chance to gain onslaught. Super nice jewel. Means that he doesn't have to run a silver flask, because the idea is that you're killing at least 13 monsters every 4 seconds. It gives you the permanent onslaught that you need to go super fast. The belt itself is just purely for life in most cases. It does look like it has the 50% chaos res during any flask effect, which does mean that he's pretty durable when it comes to chaos damage, meaning that those spitters shouldn't really give him too much of an issue coming up. Coming up next, we have the gloves, which gives him rampage. So he gains rampage while he's at maximum endurance charges, which we will see how he generates them. I think it is due to the Warlord's Mark, Curse on Hit, and Herald of Thunder, but that's to be mentioned shortly. Basically, the goal of these gloves is that when you have maximum endurance charges, you have rampage, and so when you lose your rampage, like it falls off, and you haven't killed any monsters recently, you do lose all your endurance charges. But with this setup, it is super easy to get those back again, and also the rampage, as you mentioned, Rain Dog, is super good for any clear speed build, generating those rampage effects, like special effects, like the little explosions with stuns, as well as just the extra damage and movement speed that rampage provides. Looking at the rings here, this is definitely a very nice synthesized ring with the resistances on it, with 2 fractured mods. We can see that with the life roll, it is possible that they crafted this ring themselves, since all they really care about is the resists and the life. Looking at the other ring, again, just a lot of life and resistances. Same with the amulet. It does appear like he's no longer using a tabula. He is using a 151 life chest piece. Definitely super tanky. If we can get a confirmation on how much life he has, that would be wonderful. But definitely a super nice chest piece.
5.7k.
So only a little bit under crying, who's opted for the entire Scion life wheel. Oh, it does appear like Ziprin has that as well, but we can just go over the flasks here really quick. We've got the Jade Flask of Warding, we have the Sulfur Flask of Grounding, we have the Salt Flask of Staunching, as well as, again, the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. Even if you're not racing, I definitely recommend this flask. It makes you so much faster than every other Quicksilver that it's definitely a really big pickup. And then again, he's got the Seething Divine Life Flask of Heat. It is important to note that he has 20% quality on this. If you compare this to some of the other life flasks, it does give so life flasks actually give more life for how much quality they have, since it doesn't really have any duration on it. Putting quality, the baubles on your life flask does provide more life. So that's something that I don't think most of the other teams' carries have on their flasks, and so they probably should be doing that fairly shortly. Anything else you want to note about the gear here, Raindog?
Not that much about the gear. I guess he's really prioritizing movement speed. He has a jewel with movement speed. He has the rampage for more movement speed. I think he mainly just be running around using the flame dash whenever. So that's definitely a big difference from people shield charging or maining movement skills.
Yeah, I agree with that. Going over the gems here, we have the Flame Dash, Faster Casting, Arcane Surge, as we see from every other group. What's interesting to see here is that Zizaran doesn't actually have any quality on his gems, despite them being level 20. I do believe he is at that range where these would be fairly leveled up by now. If he were to GCP flip them, maybe he just forgot or it's intentional, but it's definitely going to start showing through in the clear speed eventually. Looking at the helmet setup, he's got the Herald of Ice, Ice Bite, increased area effect, and Innervate setup that he was running yesterday, but again with no quality. He's got the Herald of Thunder, Curse on Hit, Warlord's Mark setup, and something to note for these kind of gems, like the Herald of Thunder, the Herald of Ice, you just want to evolve them in hopes of getting a level 21, and so that is definitely something that he should look towards doing. Looking at the boot setup here, it does appear like he's using phase run, and so it'll be interesting to see how much he uses phase run, since it does consume your frenzy charges as well as while you're phase running, you can't use any effects, and so you cannot use flame dash here and phase run at the same time. But in the boots, he's using the cast when damage taken, Immortal Call, Restoration, of Phase Run setup. And because Phase Run is such a high level compared to his cast when damage taken, it means that when he takes damage, he's not going to cast Phase Run. He's going to actually just cast Immortal Call instead. And something to note is that you want to leave the cast when damage taken support on a low level so that because this line right here triggers socketed spells when you take a total of blank damage, you want this to be going off when you're taking damage. You don't want this to go off when you're taking 90% of your life. You want this to be going off quite often to prevent yourself from taking those like 1-2 shot kind of things. Looking at the gloves here, instead of having a lightning spire trap, it does appear like he's using a Vol Blade Vortex setup at level 20 with hypothermia, physical to lightning, and control destruction here. Interesting to see that he's opted for the Vol Blade Vortex. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out for him. Looking at the chest piece here, he does have the level 21 Winter Orb with Hypothermia, Faster Casting, GMP, Increased Duration, and Infused Channeling. Basically the same thing that we see from for most of the teams here, aside from Rise QT, but as we mentioned, that's just because of the evasion base. Anything to note about the skill gems, or pretty much just stock standard, you think?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that the three builds we have seen so far, all of them could in theory use the same single target for links, and we have one on Val Blade Vortex, one on Lightning Spire Trap, and one on the Val Stormcall. And that looks like the game is a good state for the single target for such clear speed builds, that they're actually able to choose different and they haven't come to the same conclusions.
Yeah, I think that's something interesting to note. Like you'll probably see in a few days here on Reddit, oh boy, the Winter Orb meta, nerf Winter Orb. There's no diversity in racing sort of thing, but this is pure evidence right here that we do have, like you mentioned, the 3 different single target setups, showing that there is quite a lot of diversity for these sort of builds and what they want to choose. Haven't seen most of these in action, or rather, I haven't seen all of them in action, so I can't really comment on the the effectiveness of this. But I would say that Vol Blade Vortex might be one of the weakest ones, but that will be something to see in these tier 15 and 16s. Moving on to the passive.
One of the nice thing about the Val Blade Vortex is that you just put it out and then you can just continue running around. But something that is also okay, the guy in the chat is mentioning level 1 cast and damage taken. That's okay. I think its Immortal Call is also level 1. I guess it can level it to level 3 and still be able to link it with a level 1. Something that is nice to note is that I think he's probably, well, he has 1.7k unreserved mana. So that brings his effective life bill up to like 7k in total. So he's fairly tanky as well. So that's also very nice, the way we see that some people go minor matter, some people go hybrid with a lot of energy shield, some people go dodge. So the game seems far from solved in that regard. The only thing that seems very sort of sorted out is that Stormbrand is just insane for leveling, and probably Winter Orb is the fastest clearing skill at the moment.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. What's a little interesting about Zizaran's tree here is that instead of going crit like the other Winter Orb boys, he has opted to go for the Elemental Overload for the damage if you've crit recently, which does lock him out of the Control Destruction support, but That isn't really too big of a deal here for Winter Orb. So, you know, because he doesn't have to go for things like Doomcast or where's some of the other nodes? Things like Doomcast. There's one up here called Arcane Potency. He doesn't need Heart Seeker or Throat Seeker rather. Seeker's down here. Yeah, it is. He doesn't really need those nodes, and so he's able to go into these duration nodes right down here, which does increase his effective clear speed in the end. Pretty stock standard tree in the other sense, except for the full Dark Earth's wheel. Anything you'd like to know?
So isn't one of the things that he's one of the few elementalists doing this? So he gets his shock and freeze chance a little bit in proliferation from his ascendancy nodes. So he's not that reliant on critting to inflict those ailments.
Yes and no at the same time. So the Ascendancy itself, Shaper of Desolation, definitely helps with the ailments, including with Beacon of Ruin. But you will see quite a few builds like Stormbrand don't feel quite as nice without that juicy 5% crit at most cases because Stormbrand, well, this is just an aside for Stormbrand that I've noticed doing practice run to 80, that it doesn't crit and freeze nearly as much as it used to, but it shouldn't be an issue here with Winter Orb. Obviously, with the Winter Orb, the maximum level Herald of Ice, the Beacon of Ruin should be going off just as much as it was before the crit change. And so definitely super nice there. Obviously going with the Mastermind of Discord. Looks like a fairly stock standard tree to me though, unless there's anything else you'd like to comment on it.
I think we're good. So I'm guessing the only one that we haven't run through that's in the top is Gucci.
Yeah, we can do that really quick. I just wanted to show the ascendancy for the other classes here. I didn't end up showing that, so this is Crying here. See, chose the same setup as Zizaran. So we have this is Rise QT here with this Trickster, same as yesterday. Going for Swift Killer into Escape Artist, Weeb the Arcane. We have Rathalos here with the Ascendant or the Occultist I showed yesterday. Then you mentioned Gucci real quick. See.
Yeah, I think we can do a quick rundown on Gucci. He's like at least in the top 4 of people having open profiles.
Yeah. So as we see here with his wands, he's with the 21 Stormbrand, and so cast speed is really important for him, but not quite as much as Winter Orb in most cases, as Brand Recall is an instant cast spell, so that does you know, sort of mitigate the need for cast speed and really increases the need for extra damage, and so that is why they have opted for Gucci to be their low level Delver, or not low level Delver, but deep Delver. Sorry. So you can see here the wand just has a lot of damage. Same with the other one. The helmet, again, just the 100 life and resistances on it. The boots, again, with the enchant, the 30% movement speed, the life and resist. The belt is actually a super nice pickup from yesterday. It looks like about 140 life here with a ton of resistances. Definitely a very nice defensive belt here. Really helps out with the deep delving. You can see the gloves here with the 54 life, a little bit of energy shield, and some resists. Be nice. The rings, again, just life resistances, 71 life here actually. Pretty nice with a little bit of energy shield to boot. Energy shield is pretty important on the Inquisitor because of his ascendancy, which we'll go over in a moment. And it looks like his ring, or yeah, his amulet here is just for the life and the rarity gain on kill. Super interesting pickup there. Looking at the chest piece, again, just a bunch of life and energy shield, and it does appear like he's got the Varici 1 white socket, which is something we haven't seen from the other members so far. A little curious as to why people like Rise QT haven't quite put that into effect yet, but that might be something to determine later on. Looking at the...
So what are you thinking? That they're doing gonna do like quarry farming? Like have one of the supports farming quarry for Syndicate?
So Syndicate got nerfed in Quarry. Syndicates only spawn 1 encounter before maps now, in the last patch. And so I don't... Watching Crying, his intention wasn't really to spawn Varici, to get the 1 white socket. He wanted 3 of them, and I think Gucci asked for the 1 white socket, which I'm not entirely certain why, because it's only 1 off color on his chest piece, and so it's not super it's not like he's demanding the light socket there on the chest piece. So maybe we'll or there was some sort of change in the past, but it's something up in the air a little bit. Looking at the flash. Sorry, go ahead.
I would imagine just like if you're able to like perhaps run city squares or something, and then like get some syndicate spawns. You can also get the harbinger orbs. Those are super nice, and like if you get him as a leader, as you can sometimes you can get as much as 5-6 harbinger orbs in one safe house.
Yeah, definitely something to note is that I think a few teams have put that into effect. I can definitely see Kamel taking on that really hard support kind of role, or like a background support in a way that he's supporting the whole team through these Harbinger orbs, through the Syndicate, everything like that. Moving on to the flasks here, we have the Granite Flask of Iron Skin, the Diamond Flask of Warding, Chemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. So not quite an Alchemist, isn't that AL there, but definitely still a pretty nice flask. Got the Jade Flask of Reflexes just for the extra evasion, and again the Seething Divine Life Flask of Staunching. Going over the gems here, again we've just got the stock standard Flame Dash, Faster Casting, Arcane Surge. He does have a Herald of Ice, Onslaught, Curse on Hit, and Assassin's Mark setup, which is something we haven't really seen from the other teams so far. On his offhand here, he's just leveling up some gems. It does look like he has the level 6 Brand Recall. Not quite sure why he hasn't gone for the Vol yet. The level 7 Brand Recall would definitely change his game up by quite a bit. It does seem like he should be leveling up at least one or two of them in his offhand to increase that effectiveness of recall, but that's alright. Boots, he's got the cast when damage taken, Immortal Call, Warlord's Mark setup, as most people have run, with the Blood Rage instead of Phase Run this time. Very interesting pickup, but I don't think he generates Frenzies in any other way, so it does seem a little bit mandatory on his part. And in his gloves, he's got the lightning damage, lightning spire trap, elemental focus, energy leech, and trap and mind damage support, as we mentioned in the previous one. Definitely just there for the single targets. Going on to the main chest piece, he's got the level 21 Stormbrand, definitely really big damage upgrade from level 20. The increased critical strike support, which hasn't been GCP'd. The added lightning damage at level 21 as well is definitely a very strong support there. The added lightning and the spells that do base damage are far more effective at level 21 than other ones. And so things like concentrated effect here may only increase your damage by 1% on a Vol, but things like added lightning may add up to like 8% more damage if it hits level 21. And so definitely a very nice pick up there. And again, he's got the concentrated effect and added cold damage. A little bit interesting to see that he's not opting for the Ice Bite, but he does have the Frenzy generation from Blood Rage, so this was most likely planned out beforehand. And it does seem like his 6th link may be Elemental Focus, but that's yet to be seen. Anything else you want to comment about the gear here, Raindog?
So he has 5.6k life. He has 1.8k unreserved mana, bringing him up to a higher total than Cicerone already. And in addition, he has 1.2k energy shield. So the character is quite defensive. In addition, I feel like it looks from their jewels that they actually have been prioritizing the jewels. I think all 3 II jewels are nice rolls with life and added spell damage. So that's very nice.
Definitely some pretty nice jewels here. Looking over the passive tree, as you mentioned, with the Mind Over Matter, and I believe the reason why he has so much mana is because he's taking the 3 nodes before or after Mind Over Matter, which does give you 50% increased maximum mana. Definitely super nice while running the Mind Over Matter setup. With the Energy Shield, again, as we mentioned before, the Ascendancy basically means that he's constantly getting 200 Energy Shield per second, making him super tanky in these deep delves. Again, just standard crit, Stormbrand, lightning damage tree. Anything else you want to note about the passive tree here?
Not real about the passive tree, but you were talking a lot about the levels on the brand recall. Is there like, if it's so strong, why aren't they running like the +2 to suck at the gems rings that they can roll? You should really prioritize that, and you can get like a level 9 brand recall.
Yeah, so that might be something to pick up for Gucci, but Again, as I mentioned, it's things like you start to get to a certain point in playing where you've been playing for 20, 24 hours. You start to get to this point where you really just kind of play the game, and you're making decisions in your maps and before your maps and after your maps that here kind of becomes like this thing that's sort of pushed off to the side, and so that might be what's going on here. It does look like he's going for this arcane potency node here, but it could just highly doubt that he's just putting in this intelligence node here in the top left for no reason. Doesn't appear to be anywhere he could stick it in at and then respec it once he levels up. Definitely interesting. He should have arcane potency in the next one.
But regarding the gear there, like I feel like that is one of the most important roles of the support. People like Camel, right? If they're able to like help him find the right gear, say, okay, you can use this, this, and this. They have access to each other's path of building. He can easily fix out, okay, just switch out these 2 rings that I put in your gear stash, and like it shouldn't be that difficult.
Very true there. You might actually see that in the next one. If not, it would be a little surprising. As you mentioned, it does make it a lot easier with the +2 ring. The potential for a +3 ring, but so far it looks like his rings just provide him with a lot of resists that he most likely needs with quite a lot of life.
The +3 is super hard to get though.
So yeah, maybe they can get the +2 going with the brand recall. Super nice ring. Might even be able to see what's Essence Worm, I believe, would probably be a pretty good pickup here, but it does seem like he's struggling on resist a tiny bit. Anything else to note here about the best tree?
He's not resist capped without the support. He's actually lacking a little bit cold resist.
Ah, okay. Anything else you want to note about Gucci here?
No, I think we're good on Gucci. It looks like some people are starting up. I guess some people are going to sleep. We were also provided with a near rip clip again. Maybe we should put that up.
Yeah. While I bring this up, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Oh, this does appear to be their first maps of the day. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask it. But if not, we'll just check out this clip and what happens here. Whoa!
What the fuck?
Wow!
Nemesis, fireball.
there. You just watch over that again.
What the fuck? What hit me?
I don't even know what that's. Is that a volatile? I don't think it
What
was.
hit me?
Wow, definitely super surprising there.
Nemesis, fireball.
Right? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with that giant life pool and the evasion. This is one of those cases, like I mentioned, where even if you have 80% evasion rating, all it takes is those super rare chances for it to fail you, and this appears to be one of those cases. So somewhat lucky on his part, but also a lot of things like this which you don't really expect to die from. So even though the community might chastise him for if you were to die in such a way, not much you can really do to prevent this.
So a sort of a interesting side note is that the dodge and evasion difference in one major way is that evasion has entropy. So basically, if you evade stuff, you will get more and more likely to get hit. But dodge doesn't function that way. That's like an equal toss of the die each time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they said that they made it that way because they gave bosses evasion. So like eventually you would be able to kill a boss with high evasion.
Yep.
But it's kind of like a strange stuff that the game works that way. So that's another way, reason why evasion, like sooner or later, you get hit, no matter what.
Anything else you want to note before we head off here, Raindog?
We can probably pick up the standings and see if people are still active.
Yeah, sure. That here at the leaderboard, really quick, you have Jotunmite in first with Rice QT leading the charge. Definitely a lot higher level than the rest. Same with Monkey Squad here. We do have Rathalos in the front, leading his entire team. We have the Avengers trailing just slightly behind, but they should be catching back up, if not surpassing the other two teams, especially since it seems like the other two haven't quite gone to sleep yet. We'll probably most likely see the Avengers pushing on ahead. They have gotten the 3 or 4 hours of sleep that they need, so a race like this, low sleep is fairly dangerous. But the only thing's more dangerous than low, very few hours of sleep is no sleep at all, and so that's what we're seeing from the top two teams right now. It will be a little concerning to see if they push themselves too hard, but
I think Rise has gone to sleep now. It's hosting Vagel, so.
All right. Yeah, so then we should see Team Avengers taking up the lead, especially after Rathalos goes to sleep here. Again, as we mentioned earlier, Grizzly with the double rip, within the same like 40 seconds or so, does put them pretty much in fifth place here, rather seventh place really, but that's all right. I don't think that their player Max here is, or I think that's Rock's PoE at level 89. I don't think they'll be pushing up. Fairly certain that they've given up in a sense, but that's just because their primary goal was to play a lot this weekend and then go back to college over, on Monday.
I think Rattlers has also gone to sleep. It seems like both of them are hitting 0 XP at the moment, so
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess
you're right.
closing up to 36 hours was enough.
Yeah. Looking here at Team Method, Team Method should be waking up fairly shortly here. Zizarin, oh no, that's a waggle here. Zizarin will be waking up along with the rest of Team Method, so definitely another team to be reckoned with. Don't quite know if they'll be able to catch up to Doten in the time that they're asleep, depending on how many hours that is. But Method are definitely not out of the race by any means.
Like at the current rate, our crying will be in the lead within 2 hours.
Yeah, and I think Avengers definitely have a really good shot. I think the biggest thing, like you mentioned with Avengers, is that they do have Gucci there at 94. So even if their main carry dies, they do have the backup. I think in the next one we will see Bogdanov definitely pushing up quite a bit. It does seem like their strategy for pushing does somewhat revolve around the other groups dying and going through with their determination. It will be interesting to see if we can see Bogdanov or Danoff pumping it up to level 100. I'm not quite sure if we'll see Salty Dog or not, but it'll be interesting to see some new teams here, especially the Japanese team here, Nyanpasu, pushing up, recovering from the ribs. It does appear to be Desho and Banyan pushing back up a little bit, although their spirits are a little defeated. Will be pretty fun to see any of these top 9 teams make it to the top 5.
And further down on the ladder, it's kind of funny seeing all the rips. Yeah. Team Crush has had quite a few rips. And I'm not sure what people are actually doing. Like if they're, it seems like some people are still playing, even though they're clearly out of the competition for the top.
I think that's kind of neat. You get to see some of these people on and give it another shot and go again. Is pretty much the fighting spirit that is required to race, in my opinion. But any other comments here on the ladder?
No, not really. It will be very interesting to see how long Rice get to sleep and how long Rarg also sleep. So I would imagine that like they at least need 3 to 4 hours, and within that they're clearly going to be overtaken by Akrai. So, and I would imagine like at the pace they're going, they might be able to get away with just sleeping one quick time and pushing the rest of the race.
Yeah, sounds good to me. All right, I'll see you guys in 11 hours now. Bye, everyone.
Bye.